Welcome to the third installment of my trifecta debate of the week. This is about Hulk. Where would we be without Hulk? This is a question I am going to pose to you and give you my idea about what would happen if there was no Hulk Hogan in the WWF at the time when it began to rise. Hulk Hogan is the reason why we have what we have today. As much as Vince is the one who created the WWE for the platform, Hulk Hogan made the platform mainstream. He went into television. He went into movies. He went into music. MTV. I was a kid, around 13 years old, when MTV first aired on cable. Yes, I'm that old. If no one wonders how old I am, if you think I'm in my late 20s, early to mid 30s, no, I'm a pretty old guy. I'm in my nearly mid 40s. Hopefully I look pretty good. If there's a woman there that's really cute and nice, I'm single. Sorry, I'm just joking around. But back then, when you looked at if you go on YouTube and look at MTV, the early form of it, it was something raw, new, total change from rock and roll the way it used to be. From what they were doing, American Bandstand and stuff like that. The Ed Sullivan Show, where you would see talent that way. By creating a show in MTV, music television, you saw only music, not something from another network. And Hulk Hogan was shown on it. He was promoted on it. He went to not Ed Sullivan, he went to Johnny Carson's show, and he was promoted there. He went to so many different places to be promoted, and to be seen, and to be heard. He was heard on radio, he was heard on television. Hell, he was heard on satellite. He was seen on satellite. He made the WWE the way it is today. But what happened if he wasn't there? What happened if he did not become famous? Let's say in this perspective, in the alternate world. Hulk Hogan wasn't known until the mid-70s. He went to Japan around the time when New Japan Pro Wrestling was being created and several other pro wrestling companies. And he went and performed out there. Let's say that Hulk Hogan decided, instead of coming back to the United States, he decided to stay in Japan and only be a pro wrestler out there. He decided never to come to America. Where would Vince be right now? Well, Vince would have to find someone that would have enough character to really put his company over and bring it to the next level, like a WrestleMania. Now, you could say that Andre the Giant would be the best person to do that. And I would agree with you. But around the time of the 1980s, Andre was really getting very sick. By 1982 to 83, he was still functioning. He was still working in the ring. But it is obvious from his size that the condition he had with his, I believe, his pituitary gland, or whatever gland that was affecting his growth, was becoming really bad. So, to be honest, as much as I'm an Andre the Giant fan, I love me the Andre the Giant, he would not be able to maintain the stamina necessary in the ring, and then stamina necessary to go outside the ring and to be able to present himself. Next to that, Andre was French. And I'm not against French people, but you can hear in his talking, he had a very strong French accent. And it doesn't mean he couldn't have gotten over and really relay what he wanted to say. But let's be honest, Andre would not have the same strength as a Hulk Hogan would to be able to get himself over. He would not have some strong catchphrases. He would not have some strong attitude. So you think, who else could have been out there? Roddy Piper would be a great person. But let's be honest, as much as we love the Piper, the Piper's Pit, he really did not translate to be strong enough to be really over with the crowds, to really show what he could do. And around that time, he was drinking and drugging. He was pretty heavy into that stuff. It's one of the reasons why he had to leave, because he wasn't taking care of himself. He was acting very irresponsible, and we really, honestly, lost him because of that. So you wonder how many other people could have done it. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat? No, he didn't have that kind of strength. Could have been Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Brutus, he's one of the people I loved. But I just don't believe he would have had a strong enough of ability to act to get people interested in him and to get him over. The first wrestler I ever saw in my life was Bob Backlund on television, which I call Mr. Bob Backlund like the Off the Rope show does, because the man respects, deserves respects, and almost became president and used the WWE to try and become one. That was epic. But even he wouldn't have been able to do it. So would there be a person that could have helped the WWE? By my perspective, not in the early 80s. Not 1981, 1982, and 1983. Particularly 1984, when the first WrestleMania came out. There wouldn't have been anyone strong enough to do it. Tito Santana wouldn't have been able to do it. I'm sorry. The British Bulldogs were great at the time, but it wasn't like Davey Boy Smith or Dynamite Kid could actually have the strength to do something like that. There was no one at that time that had his attitude. So this is what I believe would happen. There would be no one that could actually springboard the WWF into that next level. At least not until the mid to late 80s to the 90s, where maybe the Ultimate Warrior would appear. Now the Ultimate Warrior was in the AWA, and he also was in the NWA at one point, and I believe he was in WCCW briefly, around the time when Sting was around. So the best person I could see that had that charismatic, high octane type of feel would have been the Ultimate Warrior. But Ultimate Warrior didn't come around until the late 80s, early 90s. Around 1987, 1988 into 1989, the Ultimate Warrior was hot. So I believe that the WWF would have finally gotten over then. But then they probably would miss the boat. Because the area between 1982 to about 1985 or 86, I believe, was the most strongest time wrestling had a huge boost. When the first WrestleManias came out, WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3. That was also the time when Starrcade came out. Starrcade 82, Starrcade 83, Starrcade 84. Starrcade 85 and 86 were actually supposedly pretty good. And if they came out after that, the NWA would have had a lot of traction and momentum going into it. But then they would have to fight against WCCW, which would have turned into WCW, which I believe they would have lost the battle there. Even though I know that WCW was not properly taken care of, and they almost went into total bankruptcy until we got the Time Warner, I'm not even going to say Turner, I have to say it, Turner. Turner really fucked up WCW. But you get my point. WWF would have missed the boat by several years. So going into 2015, would they still be in existence? I believe they would be. And I also believe that they would be above TNA, where they are now. Well, let's be honest here. TNA is a distant second to WWE. If you're going to be honest, if WCW, if you saw my previous video about Vince, they would be, let's say, a distant third, but not too far behind ECW. ECW would not be very powerful. So where ROH is to TNA, and TNA is to WWE, you would have WCW, ECW. I know that I said Georgia Championship Wrestling as well as Stampede Wrestling, they would be there. But I believe because of how Vince's genius is, he would be probably the third in line. If you're going to be honest, if there was no WWE at the time, like I said in my previous video, you would have Georgia Championship Wrestling and Stampede Wrestling fighting for third place against ECW, who is in second. One of those two would try and take over ECW's position. If the WWE existed without Hulk Hogan, I believe because of Vince's genius, still very potent, he would be a third place winner. That's how I feel. Then you would have probably Stampede Wrestling fourth and Georgia Championship Wrestling fifth, and they will probably be fighting for fourth place against WWE in third. there would be a three-way fight for third place. And they would have those positions there. But this is just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. So I hope you enjoyed this third installment of the Trifecta Debate of the Week. Please give me a comment below. Tell me how you feel about these debates. Do you want me to do another set? And I hope you have a good day and have a good night. Peace out!